Hello, everyone. Good morning. How are you all doing today? Thank you for joining this meeting. Thank you. We are Livestock 247. My name is Ugochi Izwara. I'm the head of programs and partnerships for Livestock 247. And this is Livestock Conference 5.0. The Livestock Conference is a periodic conference where we come together to discuss different issues that affects the livestock industry and agricultural industry in general, and how it affects us as human beings and other sectors outside of the agricultural industry. So we can be looking at livestock and security, livestock and public health and what have you. This particular livestock conference is tagged Animal Identification for Sustainable Agriculture. Like I said, I'll repeat that again. This Livestock 5.0 conference is tagged Animal Identification for Sustainable Agriculture. And discussing this very salient topic with me today are Dr. Rufai Ahmed and Mr. Ayomide Oni. I'll just do a brief introduction for our speakers for today, Mr. Ayomide and Dr. Rufai. So Dr. Rufai is the head of operations for field operations for Livestock 247. He is our general when it comes to field operations, managing operations of projects all across the country and in some neighboring states. Dr. Rufai has a deep footprint within the livestock sector in Nigeria, as he has over 10 years of experience offering different services within the livestock sector. We are privileged to have Dr. Rufai on this call. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Rufai?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, Dr. Ngochi.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I'll be doing a brief introduction of Mr. Ayomide Oni. Mr. Ayomide Oni is the head of sales and marketing for Livestock 247. He leads the sales and marketing strategy for Livestock 247, having amassed experience across different industries, including retail marketing, telecommunications, and what have you. Mr. Ayomide Oni, I'm giving you your honorary doctoral appointment in livestock medicine now. Mr. Ayomide Oni is going to be is one of our resource persons on this particular call. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ayomide Oni.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, so we'll just go straight to the topic. We have very limited time for this particular discourse. I'll just give a little bit of, I'll just give a little bit of background. So, in livestock, in the livestock space in Nigeria, there's been a flurry of activities, with the recent announcement of the president's, setting up or establishing a ministry for livestock development. There's been a lot of buzz within and outside the livestock sector on whether this ministry is important. And so we thought to, have this conversation to discuss something that we believe is very important within the livestock sector. And we're going to be majoring on animal identification, like I said earlier. So now, this question is for both of you, and I'll let Dr. Rufai to respond first. As a field expert, in your many years of working in the livestock sector, what is your view on animal identification? Why do you think it is important? Why do you think it is something that we should even be discussing in the first place? Dr. Rufai, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ngochi. I think animal identification is very, very important, and it is something that we can take it to a paramount important in this country, considering the fact that it is going to solve the insecurity challenge in the country, more especially in the northern part of the country, where you see the farmer harder crisis, where you see the stolen animal being taken to the market, where you see the cattle rustling is very high. Somebody will claim ownership of somebody properties. A lot of things is happening. So with identification, you may be able to trace the right ownership of the animal, and you'll be able to trace the exact location of that particular animal. That's at the one side. If you look at the medically, or let's say in our own profession, identification is very key important in treating animal diagnosis and taking history of the animals. Without identification, you may not be able to record a perfect recording of the animal history, animal disease. You may not be able to even control the disease if you don't have the record of that particular animal. So identification is very key important in our own profession and also in the country based on the situation that we found ourselves this today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rufai, for that response. You know, I agree. I really do agree with you on your response. But I would ask Mr. Ayomide Oni, please, can you, in your own, I'll ask you the same question. Why do you think the animal identification is important, you know, in the livestock sector?
So commercially, I mean, it is a viable methodology. So each product you take to the marketplace has its unique perspective, its unique characteristics. And for livestock, for instance, let's say we are selling cupcakes in a factory, and you have to do what they call batch control. The reason you do batch control is to ensure that the consumer safety is guaranteed, so that if there's a need for any recall, you can trace the product back to the date, the time, and trace any incidents that might have affected quality assurance and control. Now, aside to that, let's bring it home to the livestock business. Because the business of meat production is a very traditional one, people have been trying to adopt to the new technology has been quite difficult. And it's not just a matter of livestock. Generally, across Nigeria, it takes a bit of time for our people to adopt new technologies to better their lives. And we can say that, okay, we've done well with respect to telecommunications and the like, but those are newer technologies. So when it comes to products like livestock now, you have people that have been rearing animals for decades in the northeast, northwest, and north central part of Nigeria. Their grandfathers were herders, they're herders, and you are telling them now that, oh, look, you need to identify the animals. And they're like, why should we identify? We've never done this yet. We've been able to still sell. But the failure of not doing that actually affects the overall quality assurance, the overall value chain, and the overall productivity of that sector. Because, like Dr. Rufai rightly mentioned, without identification, a lot of malpractice, a lot of inadequacies, and this has even stemmed, this is part of what is causing the insecurity that is laden in that sector as we currently speak. So if there is traceability, the person you are selling to in Germany, in Australia, in Brazil, understands that, oh, this particular product is coming from Ayo Farms in Yola, it's coming from Ugochi Farm in Kano, or it's coming from Rufai Farms in Borno State. So that way you can ensure that the animal you're eating from the farm to the table, that's how you say from farm to fork, you know that this animal is something that you can vouch for, and you know the entire history, management practices, and you know if it is fully organic, you know the kind of diseases the animal has been exposed to, all this booster quality assurance, and it ensures that you're having a lawful food system in place. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much for that answer. You know, your answer actually cuts into my next question, you know. So we're talking about animal identification, and from both of you, you know, you have a perspective of, you know, the consumer angle, how the consumer feels about what they are consuming, and, you know, their attachment to what it is that they are going to be taking into their body, and how it affects, you know, the general populace that are not, in quotes, within the livestock sector. And from what Dr. Rufai is saying, Dr. Rufai was more, I mean, I may be wrong, but he had quite a bit to talk about the producer angle, you know, how malpractices occur on the farm because of, you know, lack of identification. So I would like to ask a question now. You know, both of you mentioned something very important. You talked about how lack of animal identification and traceability ties into insecurity, and by extension, other sectors that seem not to be linked into the livestock sector. I would like both of you to expatiate on that, starting with you, Mr. Ayo. How do you think the lack of animal identification, or the inadequate animal identification, as it were, in the country, ties into things like insecurity, maybe other sectors that may not even be the agricultural sector? How do you think that, or in reverse, how do you think establishment of a proper animal identification and management system of traceability can affect other sectors that are not necessarily the agricultural sector?
All right. Doctor, I'll go first then.
Yes.
Basically, we like to talk about a veterinary term. I'm not a doctor, as you were trying to confirm me.
I don't have the power.
I've been with you guys a lot. There's something you guys call bioaccumulation, which has to do with animals that are grazed. Whatever they take in is embedded in the tissue. So that tissue now, when human beings consume it, even no matter how much you cook a meat, if there are toxins inside, toxins are different from microorganisms. If there are toxins inside, they remain there. And that is why today you have high prevalence of cancer, kidney diseases, and all of that. It's becoming more rampant. And if we trace it, it's all these food safety issues. So I'm bringing it with respect to health now. Now, when an animal has grazed all manner of land and eating all manner of stuff, and we cannot tell what kind of diet it's on because there's no identifier, we cannot tell what kind of mileage it has gone. So there's a lot of issue with such animals. Then the animal is slaughtered and it gets to our table. And you think, let us cook it very well. That way it's gone. But the truth is, cooking does not eliminate toxin, which has health implications. And look at our health budget. The health budget does not even begin to capture the level of health issues we're having in Nigeria. So one of the things that Nigerians can do is actually being preventive. So if we can reduce the level of people going to the hospital, the amount of money you have in your health budget will continue to, you will be able to cater to other things and not focus on all the issues that can be avoided if you are treating your animal from point of origin. I talk on health. Now, when those animals are grazing different parts of Nigeria, that is where insecurity comes in. Now, you graze on farm A, farm B, we're having food security crises, all manner of issues. Because if you can trace an animal, if an animal grazes on a farm and there are identifiers of such animals, you can sue, you can pursue. But those animals now, you don't even know its source. The farmers cannot make any claim because nothing is tying that animal to a human. You don't see that, it is some historical elder that is passing their land and all kind of crisis. And this is stemming from disorderliness. And one of the ways we can restore order in our livestock value chain is to ensure that all animals have identifiers, either electronic or manual or whatever. The important thing is that animals need to be identified. So I've talked on insecurity, I've talked on health. Now let's talk about the economy as a whole. Brazil is the largest exporter of beef in the world. Brazil exports beef upward of over 10 billion US dollars. Let's look at our challenges in Nigeria. Recently, Nigeria is being held to a stool. We are struggling to attract FDI. We are struggling to we went as far back as the African Bank to borrow $3 billion last year. And I'm telling you now that if we put the adequate structures in place, meat production, if we start exporting, can cater to a lot of our needs. And I'm not just talking about guesswork here. These are things that are verified from the National Bureau of Statistics or the Debt Management Office. So if we put these structures in place, we start to benefit, not just in respect to health, in well-being, in respect to solving the insecurity crisis. We are talking about empowerment of our people. We are talking about reducing unemployment. And we are talking about what now? Having money to develop other parts of the economy that is stemming from livestock. And all this can be achieved only through animal identification. So that's all I can say regarding your question.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Yamide. You talked a lot about, many things that I don't want to delve into because of time. But I also want Dr. Rufai to respond to the question, the same question. But I want him to respond to it, taking into consideration the socioeconomic context of the producers now. There's this thing that we say within the livestock sector, how that more often than not, the middlemen actually reap the bounteous harvest from the sector. These faceless middlemen, You know, how can we use animal identification, you know, a viable animal identification and management system to put that structure, that order that Mr. Ayomide talked about in such a way that it would benefit the socioeconomic circumstance or the improve the socioeconomic status of the producers and the people that are actually laboring to produce this livestock. Dr. Rufai, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ngochi. You touched the point where I wanted to direct my conversation. You see, animal identification, as you rightly asked, is going to affect many sectors actually. As Mr. Ayo said, it's going to affect the health sector, and it's going to affect the security issue, and also it's going to affect the socioeconomic status of the producer. There are so many ways, actually, so many ways that it's going to affect the socioeconomic status of the consumer. For instance, when you go to the farm, the animals that are not being identified, the producer might not know the quantity of feed that particular animal is taking, might not know the disease, the recurrence happening of the disease in that particular animal, might not know the animal that are like viable, the animal that can produce more milk, or the animal that can produce more offspring, or the animal that maybe are not producing at all. So with identification, you may likely going to identify the animal that is frequently consuming your money for treatment, money for feeding, money for so many things. So you can decide to like remove that particular one so that your economic will grow. And also you can identify the animal by, let's say, the animal that are producing high volume of milk, to ensure that you produce more of that particular animal. With that, it's going to improve your economic. As I said, affecting the security sector, as I said in the initial issue, the security issue in Nigeria now is lack of identification. Person will bring animal to the market. There's no way to identify that particular animal is for that particular person. How will you identify it without identification? There's no way. So definitely there should be a crisis along the line. And particularly the health sector. Health sector also is more of like affecting the health sector. When you look at the microbial resistivity that we are fighting in this country, is lack of identification might bring it. Because once you identify the animal, you know you have the history of that particular animal, you know the amount of drugs given to that particular animal that you identify, you know the withdrawal period. Without identification, you may not know all this. And also, you can track the record of disease coming from outside the country, as in the movement of the animal from one country to another, from one state to another, how it carries the disease from state A to state B. Without identification, you may not know the history and the track record, and also to track the disease prevalence of that particular area. So without identification, actually, a lot of sector is going to be affected. Health sector, security sector, economic status of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rufai. I really like the fact that you talked about spread of disease, you know, and you even took it to a, you know, outside of Nigeria context. I like that the fact that you talked about the spread of disease and how this affects, you know, interstate spread of disease, and also possibly inter-country spread of disease, because there are talks, and I think they are actually verifiable, that many of the times, some of the issues, the farmer herder crisis that we are having in the country, especially within the southern part of the country, are actually not from our citizens. You know, it's been said so many times that the people that actually come to cause issues within, you know, the farms are actually not Nigerian citizens, are people that are bringing in herders coming from outside the country, who probably do not understand the language of the place where they are going. Dr. Rufai, I would like you to speak a little bit more on that.
Actually, from our neighboring country, you see, people with their animal coming into this country for grazing, for like so many things now. So once they trek maybe from their neighboring country to this country, a lot of issue might arise. They may like to cause trouble with the farmers, thinking that it is Nigerian citizens that are causing trouble within themselves, which is not. Let me give you something that happened. There's one area in Jigawa, Kukarimikia, we call it Kukarimikia. Annually, you see animals coming to that particular area for grazing annually. So that particular time, there was a time when we realized that there are dead of carcass in that particular animal. When we trace that particular animal with tag. It's coming from far away country, remote country, not even Nigeria. So these are the simplest example that people are coming from outside the country to cause trouble. So with identification, actually, we may likely going to identify our own animal. We may likely going to identify the animal that are not within us. And even the animal that are coming from outside the country, we may likely going to trace which country are they, what are the prevalent diseases of that country, so that to start preventing ourselves not to take disease or not to transfer disease from that particular area to this area.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rufai. Thank you very much. I really like, how you gave that particular example, because sometimes whenever we talk about the livestock sector, the politics is heated up. The citizens, there's this talk about, the livestock sector is a Fulani agenda, is a northern agenda. And with what you're saying now, we can begin to deconstruct some of those mindsets. Letting people know that sometimes these people that are causing some of these problems that we are seeing are not even Nigerians, and that is one of the reasons why I decided to ask more about that. So Mr. Ayomide, I would like you to speak specifically now, because of your wealth of experience within, the retail sector. I would like you to speak specifically on the importance of animal identification in, and I like the fact that you talked about Brazil and the export. I'd like you to speak about the importance of animal identification when it comes to the final consumed product. So meat, milk, eggs, fish, and all those things. I'd like you to talk about that and how important it is, because sometimes some of these conversations, when we're having it, you can begin to look at it, it's a farmer issue, it doesn't concern me. My own is to just buy meat and eat now. I'd like you to talk about that, Mr. Ayomide.
All right, thank you, Doctor. So basically, I'll start with China. China is the largest importer of beef in the world, and they trade close to 25 billion for beef. They buy beef from Brazil, they buy from Australia, they buy from even South Africa, even though the one from Africa is little volume. So why am I starting from this? If you want to go inside international trade, there are a lot of standards that you need to conform to. There are general standards and there are specific standards. Even if you want to bring your product into Nigeria, we also have standards that we implement on items coming in. I mean, it's not as if these laws are not there. Implementation is another thing, and that takes us to another broad conversation, which I'm not ready to, go into. So I'm staying on topic. Now, the average consumer outside Nigeria, Europe, United States, economics that are vibrant, economics that are developed, they care about where the food is coming from, one. Number two, they care if you even use the kind of labor you used to produce those. So they are looking at child rights. They are looking at if it is you use some chemicals. They want to investigate to the very core to ensure that their money is not sponsoring terrorism. They want to ensure that their money is not just about the food. They want to ensure that their money is not creating exploitative measures. If you understand also, Apple is currently battling with the cobalt resistance from the GRC. There's a lot of campaign on that Apple, just like the diamonds, the blood diamonds from Sierra Leone during the war. So everybody wants to be sure that the resources or the food they are eating does not facilitate any kind of negative effect. And now we're going into the era of even carbon neutral, meaning that they want to be able to calculate how much carbon you emitted while producing. And if they see that you are carbon heavy and you produce a lot of carbon, the greenhouse gases, nobody is going to buy from you. So We are talking about advanced markets here. And this is what countries like Brazil, countries like Australia, they've conquered, they've perfected it. I'll give you an instance. One of the commonly produced products in Nigeria is yam. Yam, funny enough, according to our laws, even exporting of Nigerian yam is actually prohibited. According to our laws, it's supposed to, whatever yam we produce in Nigeria stays in Nigeria. It's a food security strategy. But Ghana here actually exports yam. And the way they process the yam they export, it's different from the one they even take to their citizens. What am I trying to say here? At the start of food security, at the start of even letting us feed ourselves, we have to ensure that the system we are implementing is global best practices and meets up requirements, not just for the best practices. You are ensuring that what you're doing actually meets some certain SDGs, SDG 1 to 17. It could be SDG 13, water, food security, empowerment, ending poverty. All the SDGs are markers. And once you do that, you are not just producing for yourself. It's easier for you to tap into the market. But if you think that maybe there are people that want to eat it, let us just do it anyhow, you will not even scratch the surface of trade. And I'm a proponent of when to the average Nigerian now, anytime they hear import, they get angry. But there's no country that stands alone. Import is give and take. That's why it's called balance of trade. You just want to ensure that your exports are more than your imports. Imports are not bad. Nigeria is not producing tractors, but we need them. But if you can import the tractor in, and you are selling more food than the cost of that tractor, it means your balance of trade is in the positive. So I'll now go to our domestic consumption. Nigerian consumers they're a lot of I mean, these are the challenges we faced last year while we're trying to sell to them. They are price sensitive. They want freshly killed animals. There are a lot of sensitization that no private sector cannot drive it alone, that the government itself must begin to take proactive measures. And that's why I'm very appreciative of the Ministry of Livestock that is coming up, because I believe strongly that they are going to deepen the frameworks, the policies that will ensure that any animal coming to the table of Nigeria as meat is already standardized, such that it actually matches international standards. So that when we try to export, what we are doing is just, changing forms. Not that we have to go back to the farm and start laboring, looking for this, looking for that. So the whole infrastructure with respect to food security in Nigeria has to be changed. And at the heart of it for livestock is animal identification. Full stop.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yomi. There's so many points to milk out of that. I really like the fact that you tied animal identification to, even in quotes, newer things like the DEI thing, and the climate change and what have you. I really like the fact that you tied animal identification to broader things, even outside of what we would have even thought about. I really like that. So, and I like the fact that you talked about, how that you believe the current Ministry of Livestock department is going to, better the livestock sector. I'll just put it in that context, with respect to the quality of produce that our consumers, that get on the table of our consumers. So I'll just ask one final, no, this is the second to the last question. So, Dr. Rufai, if you had an opportunity right now, you have an opportunity to speak with, the new incoming minister for the Ministry of Livestock Department, what is the first 1, 2, 3 things, the 1, 2, 3 things you would tell him or her to implement to better the livestock sector? Dr. Rufai?
So thank you, Dr. Ngochi. The first thing I would like to advise the, let's say, incoming minister, as you said, is to have animal census. We don't have the correct total population of the animal in this country. The current one, knowing the census of the animal, the total number of the animal based on breed specification, and some other things, it will help us to put a control measure of that particular animal. We know how much we have in this country, how much we are expecting, what are the expected population in the next year subsequent year, so that to plan very well. Number two, to like have the surveillance, the prevalent disease within and outside the country. What are the recurrent disease in this country? Knowing the disease, it will help in planning on how to. So if you know the disease and you don't know the population, you may not know the numbers of drugs you are going to supply to this country, the vaccines. So the third one is identification. This first and second one will not be achievable without animal identification. That's all.
I like your point. I really, really like your point, you know, because especially the second point where you talked about the prevalence of disease within and outside the country, this also now even ties into Animal Production Research Institute, you know, and livestock-based institutes, you know, like the MVRI, the NAPRI, you know, and also it will help know the number of livestock professionals that we should be churning out, you know, so we should know, it will help us know, do we have enough vet doctors to cater to the livestock that we have? It will help us know, do we need more agricultural extension agents? And even, you know, if like that census that you said, very apt, very apt. I really do not want to take away from what you said. So I'm going to be asking Mr. Ayomide the same question now. If you are going to advise the incoming minister of the Ministry of Livestock Development, what would you tell the person? Three top things you tell the incoming minister.
So thank Dr. Rufai for what he stated. I mean, you cannot appraise what you don't know. The census, like he stated, is very important. In fact, the 3 points that he mentioned are quite brilliant. But for me, what I would say is just like an addendum to what he has rightfully stated, which is that the minister should embrace a bottom-up approach. So if he's at the top, everybody will come with their own methodologies, wanting to implement what can work. We know what can work. We've been in this sector for years. So if they bring all the stakeholders around, let us come together and look at, okay, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities? So there are people that have been in livestock for 35 years in Nigeria, facing serious challenges. So if whatever solution is coming up starts from the bottom, it lay credence to our realities, not that we just go and borrow something from advanced country and put it there, and it will suffer the same failure that the previous several other interventions have had. That's one. The second thing I would advise also is that this is going to be capital intensive. Implementing structures where you have no structures is a costly endeavor, a costly enterprise. So there is no, okay, we are inviting the private sector. The private sector are there, but when it comes to the amount of resources that are required to standardize the abattoirs, the public abattoirs, the public livestock markets, that is a lot of money. And we're talking billions of naira. So you should not shy away from the fact that this is a capital intensive venture, and you should embrace that. And because whatever you put in place now will drive the future growth that you're expecting. If the foundation that we are trying to build now with the Ministry of Livestock department is weak, nothing will stand. People will come back years' time and say, what is even the point of this ministry? Just created for creation purposes. The third one that I'll mention, aside finance now, is the transparency, which is important, in order so that we are not beleaguered with bureaucracy, just like every other ministry in Nigeria has been seriously facing. You submit a proposal, everything has to be driven by technology. We have some of those solutions in Livestock247. So I believe strongly that once this ministry come on board with partners like Livestock247 and some other experienced organization, we can provide that technical know-how to ensure that the frameworks, the policies, the initiatives match the sufferings, the yearnings of our people. So that's just the three highlights that I feel I would advise the coming minister.
I really like your points, the last 2 points in particular, because, you know, like you said, there's a lot of infrastructural deficits within Nigeria as a whole, really, but in particular the livestock sector. There's a lot of infrastructural deficits. And because somehow it seems like we have made things work, we really do not know how much we have lost. And I dare say that there are many people, well-meaning Nigerians who are willing to invest in the sector. I have met quite a few of them personally who are willing to invest in the sector. But I think, like you said, the lack of transparency, the bureaucracy, and so many other things that, take place within the sector has been discouraging, So, yes. And my final question, and this goes to Dr. Rufai and Mr. Yomide Oni. So I would like you, I know that you have developed different products, within your portfolio that attend, to the needs of, or that prefer these solutions. You have some of these solutions. I'd like for you to highlight some of these solutions and, use case of those solutions. I know you have different solutions. I wouldn't want to start mentioning them, but I'd like for you to give us some of these solutions within your portfolio, and services too. They don't necessarily have to be products, but services too, that provide these solutions. Dr. Rufai, first, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ongochi. I really love this question because it will show the activity we normally does in the fields and also the solution that we are trying to bring. I'll just mention one product that it have a great interest to the farmers. We are working with many implementing partner in many projects, and we went to the fields, we mingle with the farmers, we mingle with the small scale holders, farmers and all that. So we know their needs, we know what do they need. So the first challenge we realize that is that for the farmer to have a successful farming in his farm, especially livestock farming, he has to get let's say animal health attendants, like either vets or paravet or any one of them. So there are distance between where those people are with the farmer. In fact, it's finding it difficult to reach out to them to attend to their clients, to attend to the clients. So most of the cases, you see animal dying, you see animal under productivity, so many things. The farmer doesn't know what to do. So the product we created is Hoina. Hoina is a Fulani, borrow from Fulani language. Hoina means to ease, means to bring ease activity in livestock farming in the rural area. So that Hoina, it solved a lot of problem to the farmer, bringing the veterinary doctors to the community to attend to so many cases, advising them, advocating on so many diseases, how to go about it, how to interact with the farmer, how to have a maximum production in your own farm. So that Hoina product is actually a product that I would really recommend. Like each state should take it as very important product to implement it in the in their various area to solve many problems of the farmers and also to solve the farmer headache crisis in general. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the Hoina product. So the Hoina product is a paid product, right? Is it a product that people pay for, or is it a free service?
No, it's a product that people pay for the services given to them. Yeah.
Okay, and how is the payment? Is it per animal or is it subscription? Is it per year? How does the payment
like a subscription? Once you subscribe, then you'll be paying annually.
Okay.
You'll be paying annually. Yeah. You just registered your animal, your farm, your animal, the number of animal in the farm. Then after subscription, then you just be paying annually. So every week, doctor will be going to your farm, consulting your farm, giving you a hint and like advocacy, enlightening you in so many important things for you to know how to maximize your profit, your production. so many things actually. So it's a very good product that I would recommend each state to adopt and start using it.
So essentially, this is like having a vet doctor and an extension agent coming to your farm regularly, you know, to give you the premium service that you deserve to boost your productivity.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rufai. Thank you very much, Dr. Rufai, for that for that information. So I'm going to be asking Mr. Ayomide the same question. Mr. Ayomide, within your portfolio of activities and products, you know, which one do you think is something that, or rather, just let us know some of your products and activities that tie into this animal identification discourse that we're having?
Yeah, so basically, I also like to, first of all, give credit to you. Well done for this engagement. It's been insightful. I've learned a lot also from Dr. Rufai. And I won't take anything away from you also. There's no product or service that we do in Livestock 247 that you are not critical to. So you might as well also correct me as I begin to mention them. So the first one is the animal identification and management system, which we have adapted to different states. We've adapted all manner of features to it. In Zamfara is securitization. In Kaduna, it has to do with the L press implementation. And in Ogun State here, it has to do with the entire rejig of the food system. It's something we have sold even to Kwara State government. So our animal identification and management system can be tailored to governments, so critical stakeholders, and I'm talking about people that are in the milk value chain, people like Friesland Campina, people like Sebore Farms, people like International Dairies Limited, IDL, makers of Farm Fresh. So all these stakeholders can benefit, or they are even benefiting because one way or the other we are working together. So it's our core is technology, and one of the way we've implemented technology is through our animal identification and management system. Today it could be LAG AIMS, tomorrow it could be Ogun State AIMS, next tomorrow we are talking about Abuja AIMS. The important thing is that when you know the number of animals and you know the full scope of animals that are currently in your state, it enables you plan, not just revenue. We're talking about insecurity. If I know that I have 700,000 heads of cattle in Ekiti State, my thinking changes. So I know that how many farmers you have. You need to balance your book and say, okay, we have a total of about 700,000 farming households versus 700,000 farmers. You compare cost. So I'm talking about even government engagement. I talk about private sector engagement. And will I begin to mention, we won't even be here without our critical NGOs, our stakeholders, people like Mexico, people like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, people like USAID, people like Sahel Consulting, and there are a lot of them that I can't begin to even mention all of them, which they've allowed us to be able to use our technology to make a difference, not just talking big English, but if you go to rural Gombe State, rural Kaduna, rural Taraba State, and far south of Sardauna local government, we are there, we are live and we are working. We are implementing this solution and we know that the future of livestock in Nigeria, come rain, come sunshine, is secure. So that is just me talking about the animal identification and management system. Now, the second one I want to talk about has to do with our Meat 247 solution, which is trying to retail meat through an e-commerce passport to Lagosians. And we all know Lagos is the largest retail market within the sub-Saharan Africa. There's hardly any economy that is larger than Lagos in the entire West African belt. And we are present here. We are just trying to ensure that by the time some of these standards that we're expecting from the Ministry of Livestock Development, by the time it is being implemented, one of the things that will see us is that all this our platform will be taken to the forefront because we are forward thinking. We know that our time is coming, or even our time is now. So if you need to buy anything, any meat online now, all you need to do is just type www.meat247.ng. We have entire meat soup there. It's there. You just order, it will be delivered to you within 48 hours. So those meat you are buying from us are not just any meat that is gotten from like an abattoir or places that are not hygienic, places that are not wholesome. They are sourced from registered and certified butcheries, which we've taken out time to look for, empower, and partner with. So those two solutions are just what I want to talk about. Dr. Rufai have talked about OINA, which is basically our animal health services component that deals directly with the most important people in the value chain, which are the livestock farmers. So we are there. So these solutions are available, and we are ready to adapt it as we start livestock 2.0 business in Nigeria.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much, Mr. Yomide Oni and Dr. Rufai, for this wonderful time and these very insightful discussions. You know, I like having conversations with people that are actual players within the livestock value chain, because we have quite a bit of noisemakers, you know. I like having conversations because they always carry a lot of weight because of the salient points that are you know, shared. Thank you for this conversation. We're going to be doing this again very soon. We're going to be doing this again because I think we need a part two. We need a part two of this particular conversation. Thank you very much. And thank you all our viewers for being with us up until this time. We believe that, I'm very sure that you have learned something from this discussion. And until we meet again in the future, very soon future. Bye-bye. Thank you all.